Greetings, esteemed listener, and step into the vibrant world of the silent watchers of the hidden veil, crafted with care and creativity by StoryWave.ai. Your presence enriches our tale. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for daily wonders. Chapter 1: The Echoing Edict. The morning dictum echoed across the city, spilling from speakers hidden in the sinewy metalwork of the buildings. Heed the voice of Erebos, children of the Veil. Let not your gaze wander to the horizons of heresy. In unity, we find strength. In obedience, we find salvation. The words were a familiar shroud, wrapping around my thoughts, tightening with each recitation. As an archivist, I delved daily into the ledger of our existence, sifting through histories cleansed by the regime's pristine hand. Today, as I meandered through the catacombs of records, the gossamer strands of doubt began to weave their way around me. It was a whisper, a sibilant hiss that seemed to rise from the very pages I perused, a heretical archive that should not have been, yet there it was, nestled amidst the sanctioned tomes. The document was ancient, its edges singed by time, the script upon it dancing before my mercury eyes in a script that seemed almost alive. It spoke of a time before the veil, of a world where truth was not a currency controlled by the few. My heart should have faltered, my staunchness should have wavered, yet the sigil on my palm burned with an intensity that felt like a beacon. A myriad of voices seemed to call out from the depths of the archive, a hidden rebellion that the sovereign's luminescent gaze could not pierce. Tales of the first witnesses, those who had seen the world unshrouded, uncontrolled. They spoke of freedom, of a life beyond the choking grasp of Erebos. An unbidden doubt, a specter of sedition, began to coil within my mind. Mara, the shapeshifter known as Echo, her form as fluid as the words that left her lips, found me as the shadows of evening began to merge with the perpetual gloom. Her chromatic hair shifted hues with each flicker of the dim light, her kaleidoscopic eyes reflecting a world of secrets. Cassian, she murmured, her voice a litter of tones, the archive's whisper of your lineage. The moored name bears a weight that even the sovereign cannot erase. There are truths within you, waiting to unfurl. I wanted to dismiss her words, to allow the calm defiance that was my constant companion to shield me from her insinuations. Yet as I glanced down at the heretical script, my idle flicker of the lighter ceased. The raven, my spirit animal, seemed to caw from the depths of my soul, a call to seek the veracity that the sovereign's serenity sought to smother. The edict's echo waned, giving way to the night's silent watch. And in that hush, between the lines of sanctioned scripture and forbidden lore, I sensed the stirrings of an odyssey that would tear the veil asunder. The illusion began, the first unraveling thread in the aggregate of lies. My journey, veiled by truth, awaited. Chapter 2: Beneath the Surface. It was then that the specter appeared, an apparition that danced on the edge of perception. A figure clad in the garb of ages past, a first witness, perhaps, stood before me, its edges blurred as if painted with the brush of dreams. Its presence was an enigma, a conundrum that defied the sovereign's decree. You seek the truth beneath the surface, the phantasm whispered, its voice an oddment woven from the threads of 1,000 silent watchers. The veiled-born shall awaken, and the veil shall tremble. Ilyana, the seeress with eyes aflame, had spoken of omens and risings, yet here in the tangible presence of the past, her cryptic musings took form. What truth? I asked, my words a mere breath. What promises do you bear? The specter's reply was a mosaic of images, visions of Erebos unshackled, a realm where the veil was lifted, and the skies cleared to reveal the stars in their unobscured majesty. A world not governed by the regime's unyielding grasp, but by the free will of its denizens. The visage of truth before me clashed with the veil of lies that Silas, the sovereign, the veil-keeper, had woven around our reality. The luminescent void of his eyes seemed to pierce through the very fabric of the night, searching for the heresy that now unfolded within my chamber. As the apparition faded, leaving a lingering sense of revelation, my thoughts turned to the rebellion. Whispers of dissent had grown, a festering wound within the city's underbelly, and Ilyana's divinations pointed to an uprising, a surge of the veiled-born against the stifling decree of the regime. The spectral visitation had torn a rift in my understanding, a chasm through which the light of veracity strained to shine. The truths revealed by the silent watchers were shards of a mirror long shattered, each piece a fragment of the world that lay beyond the veil. I stood motionless, the sigil upon my palm no longer a mark of servitude, but a lighthouse of potential liberation. As the first light of dawn crept through the metropolis, casting long shadows and illuminating the steel spires with an amber glow, the echo of the morning dictum felt hollow, an edict that rang with the dissonance of falsehood. The day beckoned, and with it the archives awaited my return. But the records I would sift through this morn would not be the sanitized scripts of a regime that feared the power of truth. No, I sought the hidden memoirs, the forbidden testimonies of those who had dared to dream of a world unbound. Erebos might be a city ensnared in lies, but beneath the surface, the tide of veracity surged with a force that could not be quelled. The illusion had begun to crumble, and with it, the first vestiges of the veil would soon follow. Chapter 3: Whispers in Darkness. The group was an assemblage of figures cloaked in the anonymity of dusk, their forms etched against the backdrop of a derelict building that bore the scars of forgotten strife. Their words were a cascade of fervor, each syllable a flint sparking against the flammable core of my resolve. Cassian, the name I bore, was a balefire that drew the attention of Ilyana, her violet eyes aglow with the fire of prophecy. "The veil obscures not just our sight but our minds," she intoned, her voice resonating with the timbre of certainty. "Worlds beyond our reach linger in the darkness, waiting for the smoldering embers of rebellion to ignite and cast light upon the truths we've been denied." The assembly hung on her every utterance, their collective breath a silent chorus of yearning for the veiled verities she divined. The air trembled with the weight of her foresight. An alliance was on the horizon, a union between her visions and my quest for truth. A man of substantial presence, Dominus, his steel gaze and titanic build, unmistakable even in the dim, interrupted the flow of whispered aspirations. "The regime feeds us lies as sustenance," he growled, his voice the sound of gravel trodden underfoot. "But we hunger for the sustenance of truth. This lore we share tonight is the antidote to the poison of deceit." The gravity of the moment was palpable. A choice presented itself as starkly as the contrast between light and shadow. Report the descent that breathed life into the night, or join the ranks of those who dared to question, to challenge, to upend the very foundations of the sovereign's dominion. Ilyana's gaze met mine, a silent communion that spoke of the alliance her visions had foretold. Her presence, waif-like yet imbued with an unspoken authority, was the fulcrum upon which my decision teetered. In the heart of darkness, with the echoes of the regime's doctrines still faintly resounding in the distance, I felt the rising doubts of the veils of truth begin to sway my inner compass. The gathering murmured with the sedition of lore long suppressed, tales of the first witnesses who had glimpsed the world unadorned by the veil's artifice. The night waned as the assembly dispersed, the specter of choice looming over me. Ilyana's visions, vivid and visceral, painted a shuffle of an impending alliance, one that beckoned with the lure of the forbidden. Erebos, my home, was a citadel of secrets and the silent watchers its sentinels. But now I stood at the precipice of revelation, the deceit of the regime laid bare before me. The whispers in darkness were calls to action, and the smoldering embers of rebellion awaited only a breath to ignite into a conflagration that would burn away the lies and reveal the world beyond the veil. Chapter 4: Alliance of the Veiled. "Cassian," she began, her voice a melodic chime that resonated with the very stones that encased us. "The prophecies I hold are not mere specters of chance. They are the alignment of fate, converging with the path you tread." I paused, considering her words, the weight of the archives on my shoulders. "Speak then, Seeress. Illuminate the darkness with the light of your foreseen truths." She unfurled a scroll, its surface a map of constellations and symbols that seemed to shift and dance before my eyes. "The silent watchers have long whispered of rebellion, a tide rising against the dam of deceit. Your quest, the truths you seek, they are the beamer for the veiled-born to rally behind." As we delved deeper into the labyrinth of knowledge, Mara, known as Echo, emerged from the shadows, her form shifting like the tide. Her origins were an oddment of legend and lore, ever changing, as inscrutable as the kaleidoscope of her eyes. "Cassian, the past is a mosaic," she intoned, her voice altering with each word, and my being is woven within it. "Trust not the surface, for like the silent watchers, I am both shield and sword to the cause." Her words were a riddle wrapped in the enigma of her existence, a spectral infiltrator who confounded friend and foe alike. Yet it was clear that her allegiance, though shrouded in mystery, was with the burgeoning rebellion that smoldered in the undercurrents of Erebos. As we stood, the three of us encircled by the vestiges of eras long past, the alliance was forged, not through declarations of faith, but through the silent understanding that our paths were intertwined within the conglomerate of rebellion. "The veil is not impenetrable," Ilyana continued, her gaze fixed upon the horizon of our intent. "Beneath its surface lies the truth, and like the roots of an ancient tree, it will break through the facade of lies that the sovereign has cast upon this world." The rising doubts that had begun as a whisper in my mind now roared like a tempest. Our pact, sealed within the heart of resistance, was the embodiment of the Veils of Truth archetype, a symbol of the shifting reality that we sought to unveil. The chapter of our alliance was but a prelude to the symphony of subversion that we would orchestrate. The whispers of the silent watchers grew louder, and with each revelation, the fabric of the regime's grand illusion began to fray. In the alliance of the veiled, we found not just common ground, but a shared purpose. As the spectral infiltrator wove her inscrutable presence into the fold, and the seeress's prophecies shed light upon the obscured narrative of history, we prepared to challenge the sovereign's narrative, to reveal the world that lay hidden behind the veil of his lies. Chapter 5. Eyes Unseen. In the twilight of my existence within this steel-clad society, I had come too close to the veiled secrets, too near to the forbidden knowledge that lay like a serpent beneath the surface. The enforcer Dominus loomed ever-present in my shadow, a titanic specter of the regime's unyielding grip. His footsteps were the sound of inevitable pursuit, the echo of the regime's weighty will. As I traversed the alleyways and byways, the enforcer's voice sliced through the uncertainty. "Cassian," he called, his tone harsh as the gravel underfoot, "you tread a dangerous path. The sovereign's web is absolute, and you, like all others, are ensnared within its strands." I quickened my pace, the sigil on my palm a cold reminder of the allegiance I was born into, but now questioned. "The web may be vast, Dominus, but even the strongest silk phrase," I replied, my voice a whispered resonance that betrayed no hint of the turmoil within. The silent watchers, ethereal and omnipresent, closed in around me, their gaze piercing through the fabric of the night. My heart should have raced, my tenacity should have faltered, yet it was the very sense of confinement that spurred me onward, seeking the fractures in the sovereign's grand illusion. In the distance, a shadow shifted, a form both familiar and inscrutable. Mara, known as Echo, whose very being was as mutable as the truth I sought. She approached, her chromatic hair shifting with the ambient light, her eyes a kaleidoscope of secrets. "Cassian," she intoned, her voice a symphony of changing timbres. The watchers grow weary, their vigilance a mask that conceals the fractures within. The rebellion festers, and even now, the tales of the first witnesses spread like fire in the wind. I nodded, aware that her words were both warning and guide. "And what of the web, Echo? How does one navigate its snares without being consumed?" Her form seemed to shimmer, a trick of the light, or perhaps her own doing. "The web is but a construct," she said, "and all constructs have their weaknesses. Seek the edges, the places where shadow and light converge, and there you will find your escape." A chorus of footsteps signaled the approach of the enforcer's minions, and I knew the moment for deliberation had passed. I turned, darting through a narrow passage that wound its way like a serpent through the underbelly of the city. The sovereignty's silent watchers nipped at my heels, a constant reminder of the web that sought to entangle me. Yet as I emerged into the obscurity of an abandoned district, the pursuit fell away, lost in the labyrinth of Erebos. The sovereign's web had indeed tightened, but within its constricting embrace, the seeds of discord had been sown. The whispers of the rebellion, the tales of a world unshackled by lies, grew louder with each passing day, and I, with the seeress's prophecies and the shapeshifter's enigmas at my side, would seek the truth that lay concealed beneath the veil. The conflict and paranoia that suffused my every action were but the birth pangs of a new reality, one that would emerge triumphant from the ashes of the old. Chapter 6: The Veil's Snare. I walked through the labyrinthine alleys, my name Cassian, my spirit aligned with the furtive whispers that spoke of change. The silent watchers, ever vigilant, had tightened their grip upon the city, their spectral forms a constant reminder of the sovereign's omnipotence. Mara glided alongside me, her form a cascade of shifting hues, her presence both a comfort and a conundrum. The enforcer believes the shadows he chases are his own, she said, her voice a myriad of tones that defied definition. But shadows are fickle. They belong to no one, and tonight they shall dance to a different tune. Her words wove through the air, a spell of subterfuge that masked our movements from the prying eyes of the regime. The chaos that had begun to unfold was a symphony orchestrated by the hidden rebellion, the crescendo of which was the capture of my shadow by the specters that sought to quell the uprising. The enforcer, Dominus, his presence a looming silhouette against the city's pallor, approached with the mechanical rhythm of certainty. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. Cassian, the veil's allure may dim, but its snare is eternal. You cannot escape the fate that awaits you. Yet, as he reached to grasp the phantom he perceived to be me, Mara's mutable nature wove her magic, deceiving his senses and leaving him grasping at air. The trap was sprung, but not upon us. It was the enforcer who found himself ensnared in a web of illusion, his loyalty faltering as the veil's allure dimmed in the stark reality of betrayal. The streets of Erebos were alive with the murmurs of the first witnesses, their tales a surus that etched itself into the bones of the city. The rebellion festers, I whispered back, and with every heart that awakens to the deceit, the sovereign's grip weakens. In the tempest of confusion, I found clarity. The veils of truth, those gossamer threads of reality that the sovereign had spun, began to unravel. The conflict and paranoia that had once clouded my vision now sharpened my focus. The enforcer's silhouette receded into the mists as he contemplated the chasm that had formed between his duty and his newly awakened doubt. The silent watchers, their vigilance compromised by the cunning of the rebellion, could only observe as their quarry vanished into the night. Erebos, a city of secrets, lay bare before those who dared to look beneath the surface. The veils of truth, once an impenetrable barrier, now showed the fractures of a world awakening. And I, Cassian, with the Sibylline echo by my side, moved through the darkness, a step closer to the dawn that promised revelation. Chapter 7: The Unveiled Epoch. An epoch lies veiled beneath centuries of sovereign deceit, I murmured to myself, my fingers grazing the parchment that bore witness to an age before the regime's dominion. The seeress, Ilyana, her figure a silhouette against the labyrinth of books, spoke with a voice that cut through the silence. Cassian, the past unearths itself not merely to enlighten but to challenge. What will you do with the knowledge that teeters on the brink of heresy? I contemplated the sheaves of forbidden lore, the gravity of my discovery anchoring me to the spot. If the truth has the power to liberate, then it is a weapon I must wield carefully, I replied, the weight of my newfound knowledge a tangible presence in the room. A rustle echoed through the archive, and Dominus, the imposing enforcer, emerged from the shadowed shelves. His mechanical arm whirred softly as he gestured to the parchment. Cassian, the sovereign's gambit spans deeper than the roots of Erebos. Your odyssey may have unveiled a fragment of the past, but will it condemn or absolve the souls it touches? His words, a scramble of caution and curiosity, conveyed the tremors of dissent that I knew murmured amongst the enforcers. The choice that loomed over him, over all of us, was as palpable as the dust motes dancing in the shafts of light. Mara, the unfathomable echo, her presence as unpredictable as the chromatic shift of her hair, laughed softly, a sound devoid of mirth. The veil of the epoch is torn, and yet we stand at the precipice of choice. What irony that the sovereign's own enforcers ponder rebellion. I pondered her insight, the regime's antediluvian truth now a lodestar, a clarion call that summoned the whispers of the first witnesses. These tales, once thought fables, now resonated with the vibrancy of possibility. The whispers grow loud, Ilyana intoned, her eyes reflecting the flame of ages. The silent watchers, once the sovereign's eyes, now bear witness to the unraveling of his web. The air grew thick with the unspoken understanding that the rebellion, hidden yet fervent, was a storm gathering strength. The veils of truth, once a shroud over our perception, now parted to reveal the paths of liberation and condemnation that branched before us. The revelation of the epoch's veils was a mirror, reflecting not just the world that was, but the world that could be. Erebos, with its silent watchers and veiled epochs, braced for the tumult of change, and we, the bearers of the unveiled truth, stood ready at the heart of the revelation, the architects of the future that beckoned beyond the frayed edges of the sovereign's once impenetrable veil. Chapter 8. The Dissenter's Crescendo. The cobblestone beneath my feet, worn smooth by the passage of countless indistinguishable days, now felt like the battleground upon which the fate of truth itself would be decided. The sovereign's might, an ever-tightening noose around the neck of freedom, cast a long shadow over the city. Yet within that shadow a path lay concealed, a path Echo's kaleidoscope was set to reveal. Mara, with her ever-shifting visage, appeared as a landmark of subterfuge amidst the encroaching gloom. Cassian, she began, her voice a prismatic echo that defied singular form. The labyrinth of lies is intricate, but every maze has its exit. Look beyond the fabric of the sovereign's deceit. I nodded, the harbinger's oath a silent vow etched upon my soul. And what of the path, Mara? How does one navigate when every step could be a precipice? Her laugh, devoid of humor, was a chime that resonated with the gravity of our undertaking. The dance through lies is a delicate one. But fear not, for the true path reveals itself to those who dare to see not with their eyes, but with their conviction. Silas, the veilkeeper, the face of the regime, his pristine skin an affront to the sullied reality of the world he ruled, emerged from the heart of the city. His voice, a commanding baritone, broke the tense silence. Cassian, you believe yourself an agent of change, but you are not but a pawn in a game whose scope you fail to comprehend. I faced him, my firmness a bastion against his authoritarian presence. Perhaps, Silas, but even a pawn can traverse the board and become something greater, something unforeseen by the hands that move it. The seeress Ilyana, her figure a ghostly flame in the half-light, spoke, her words weaving through the tension. The sovereign's facade fractures, and within those fractures lies our opportunity. The whispers of the first witnesses, the rebellion that festers in the silence, they converge upon this moment. The air crackled with the electricity of unspoken possibilities, of a final gambit that lay before us. Silas's facade, the untouchable serenity, showed cracks that hinted at a darker depth, a truth that he had long sought to bury beneath the facade of the omnipotent regime. The battle of wits and will that ensues will determine more than our own fates, I stated, the cityscape around us a corroboration to the high stakes that hung in the balance. The dissenter's crescendo was upon us, a swelling tide of defiance that would break upon the walls of the regime. And though the sovereign loomed like a colossus, in the quietude of the city, the seeds of revolution were sown, ready to sprout forth and reclaim the light of truth veiled for far too long. Chapter 9. Veilfall. Silas, the fractured sovereign, his luminescent void eyes now mirroring the chaos that engulfed his city, confronted me in the heart of Erebos. The silent watchers, his vigil enduring yet faltering, hovered like specters awaiting the outcome of our confrontation. You believe you've unshackled Erebos, Cassian, Silas intoned, his voice a baritone that resonated with the crumbling pillars of his regime. Yet, freedom and anarchy are separated by but a thin line. Have you the wisdom to discern between them? I met his gaze, the sigil on my palm, a dull glow amidst the ruin. Perhaps not, Silas. But the choice to discern is a right that belongs to every soul in this city, not just to the one seated upon the throne. The streets whispered with the voices of the first witnesses, their tales now vindicated in the light of a dawning truth. The rebellion, fervent and emboldened by the downfall of the veil, surged through Erebos like a tide that could no longer be stemmed. Ilyana, her prophetic gaze now fixed upon the horizon of change, spoke with a voice that held the echo of time. The balance of power shifts, and with it, the course of our history. The silent watcher's vigil may endure, but their purpose is forever altered. As the city teetered on the brink of a new epoch, Mara's form flickered in the periphery, her chromatic hair a whisper against the backdrop of upheaval. Cassian, the paths we tread are as esoteric as the motives that drive us. I return to whence I came, my part in this tale complete, yet my essence forever woven into the fabric of Erebos. Her departure was as esoteric as her arrival, her motives a lingering enigma that would fuel the fires of speculation for ages to come. The city, once choked by the sovereign's veil, now inhaled the breath of possibility. The regime's monolithic truth, fractured and crumbling, gave way to a multiplicity of narratives that wove through the streets, each a thread in the new hodgepodge of Erebos. My actions, a catalyst amidst the tumult, now receded as the city found its own rhythm, its own voice. The dirge of freedom and the requiem of tyranny melded into a single complex symphony that would play out over the generations. Erebos, veiled no more, stood at the threshold of an era where the truth was no longer a commodity controlled by the few, but a shared pursuit that beckoned to all. The silent watchers, their vigilance no longer a shroud over our existence, bore witness to the dawn of ambiguity, the essence of truth in all its multifaceted glory. And as the city found its balance within the paradox of order and chaos, I, Cassian, stepped back into the hodgepodge of the crowd, my fate inseparable from the destiny of Erebos. The narrative we would all write was one not of singular redemption, but of collective evolution, a story that would challenge the minds of those who dared to question, to seek, to understand the veils of truth that bound us all. The end. The Silent Watchers of the Hidden Veil was generated by patent-pending AI technology developed by StoryWave. Any resemblance to real events, persons, or copyrighted material is purely coincidental. StoryWave does not endorse or promote any specific views, opinions, or actions portrayed in this story. Thank you for tuning into StoryWave with us. Our AI transforms your ideas into narratives that echo. Please like, share, and subscribe to Journey through more stories every day. April 2024. See you on the next adventure.